But what was interesting was as the pitch man, the let's put out this press release man was lobbing all these softballs to Elon and Jensen. They just said some amazing things about what they think the future is of AI and work and money. And they're worth talking about for sure.
I agree. And yes, that was funny. I don't know if we're going to have any of the, in the clips you got, but it was, and the guy kept, referring to, and his Royal Highness, and I kept thinking of the Naked Gun thing where Leslie Nielsen is when the Queen's coming over, and he goes, "Now, while as Americans, the idea of a queen may seem silly to us, still we should,
Hi, Bob.
Hey, Adam.
I am kind of excited today because an event occurred a little under a month ago that's so monumental. I was afraid
time was driver's license.
Yeah, I'm just a kid. No, crazier than that. And I was afraid, we got so busy talking about other things that this event was just going to slip into the rearview mirror without us commenting on it. But I don't know if you saw it, but November 19th, last month, Elon Musk went on camera and just casually said that he thinks in the next 10 to 20 years, work will be optional and money, currency, kind of won't be a thing, all because of how incredibly productive AI and humanoid robots are going to be. Did you catch that crazy statement he made?
I did catch it, yes. I didn't see it live, but Elon himself, I think, he's been tweeting out, or retweeting, I guess, little snippets from that. So I was aware of it. People were, guffawing about it or whatever. And I'm glad that, yes, we found an opportunity to come back and revisit that because it is worth commentary.
Definitely. For those people who didn't see it, the event I thought was in Saudi Arabia because the interviewer was dressed in the flowing robes of the Saudi aristocracy. But he's apparently the communications director for that.
And
government.
Apparently he's allowed to leave the country.
I mean, I assume
thought there was like the invisible fencing or something and get a little shock.
It's got to be an exploding monitor on his ankles or something.
No, he has to find the other partner who has the matching one. If they leave together, that's how they do it.
I saw that movie. So this was basically a press conference. It was about a half an hour long. And the purpose was to show just how great and progressive Saudi Arabia government investment in technology is. They are going to, as great as the drilling for oil revolution and energy production, as big an impact as that had on the Saudi economy, this thing with these new AI data centers is going to be an equally powerful revolution. And Elon Musk was there, and the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Hwang, I believe, was there just to announce the partnership and all the great things they were doing. But the interest, that was all boring. So what?
Sorry,
okay.
Did you get out for the listeners that it was in DC? Because I know I was doing my jokes and whatever. Did you actually get that out?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was in Saudi Arabia, but no. You can't get these American billionaires to travel that far. It was held in Washington, D.C. But what was interesting was as the pitch man, the let's put out this press release man was lobbing all these softballs to Elon and Jensen. They just said some amazing things about what they think the future is of AI and work and money. And they're worth talking about for sure.
I agree. And yes, that was funny. I don't know if we're going to have any of the, in the clips you got, but it was, and the guy kept, referring to, and his Royal Highness, and I kept thinking of the Naked Gun thing where Leslie Nielsen is when the Queen's coming over, and he goes, "Now, while as Americans, the idea of a queen may seem silly to us, still we should,
Elon said some funny stuff there, but he didn't say that. So yeah, let's dive right in because there's a lot to look at. The first clip we have is the commentators asking Elon what it's like to be such an amazing disruptor of economic activity. And Elon says, disrupt what? There ain't never been the stuff I'm making. I'm creating stuff. It was pretty cool. So here we go.
You have a big fascination of something all of us have admired, first-order thinking, which Jensen sometimes calls first-order scaling, which is an opportunity for how you have dropped the cost of batteries from $1,000 per kilowatt hour to sub $100. And right now you're doing the same thing with robotics for actuators with servo rotors and motors. So I want to hear from you, how do you manage to always disrupt every single industry with that thinking?
Well, it's mostly not disruption, it's creation. So with, say, SpaceX, with reusable rockets, there really weren't any reusable rockets. But the essence of revolutionizing space travel is reusability. If you throw the rocket away every time, the cost of access to space is extremely high. With respect to electric cars, there weren't any electric cars when we started making them, really. You couldn't buy any, to the best of my knowledge. So with Tesla, we wanted to make electric cars compelling and affordable. That was the goal. With respect to humanoid robotics, there are no useful humanoid robots at this point. There are sort of gimmicks, but there are no actually useful humanoid robots.
That's pretty great. He could have just gone up there and said something boring like creative destruction, but he's like, you guys can keep doing that dumb shit you're doing. I'm just going to create a whole bunch of things that no one's ever thought of before. And I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I do like, how am I trying to, there's a temptation because Elon, especially the character or the role he plays on X, I'll call it. I can't believe I've actually come down to that path. It's like in junior high, high school, I thought I was never going to roll my jeans. And then I started to do it right when everyone else stopped. Like I finally caved in. So, but in any event, there's a tendency, I think, I troll him a lot. And there's a clip later where I'll get specific and say how I did recently about this AI and space stuff. But he is like a very smart guy. And yeah, I think part of the appeal and why you can see this is why he has, just done so much in so many different fields is that, yeah, that guy's given all kinds of buzzwords. And yeah, that's the, oh, you're a disruptor. And he's like, well, let's think that through. Is that really what I'm doing here? Now, in fairness to the guy, I mean, even with creative destruction, like it's not that Schumpeter meant capitalists or entrepreneurs go around like dynamiting things. Like that's the way you disrupt an industry is you,
right.
Bring a new product or whatever that for much lower prices and that screws everything up, all the incumbents. Like that's what that means. So they're kind of saying the same thing, but yes, I do like that he's, he objected and like, no, I'm not just going to go along with the buzz. I'm going to just, say what the actual facts are. And yeah, of course, if you bring a new product to market and it's cheaper than the alternatives and it's better, then you're going to get a lot of business. That's how that works.
I built a company that digs enormous holes through the earth. What is that disrupting? Baking in the sun on the surface like a loser. I invented putting chips in your brain to control things telepathically. What am I disrupting? Not grabbing your cup of coffee.
Bodily autonomy.
Yeah, there you go. Give us 40 or 50 more years, then yeah. Yeah. So that one wasn't the bombshell. I think that's coming here in the next one or two. Shall we?
But even there, I mean, again, for somebody, I just saw an estimate that Elon's worth like $600 billion or something, and I mean, just that clip right there is just showing that he's just casually, yeah, I did this and I did, and one of them's, yeah, I'm going to be the guy that like brings robots to market, and he doesn't mean Roombas. He means like, C-3PO types. So anyway, yep.
And I don't know if we caught it in the clip, but when he says that product, I think he does say, yeah, that's just going to disrupt everything. Like everything's going to be touched by that once we have, something like an AGI in a humanoid robot. It's going to be amazing. So one of the points he was making is to try and get the people listening to have some intuition of exactly how much more productive we can be if these things work as he envisions. So here it is in Elon's own words.
People often talk about sort of eliminating poverty and that kind of thing, but really how long have they been talking about that? There's lots of talk. There's lots of NGOs sort of trying to do these things, but really not succeeding. And the evidence speaks for itself. But AI and humanoid robots will actually eliminate poverty. And Tesla won't be the only one that makes them. I think Tesla will pioneer this, but there will be many other companies that make humanoid robots. But there is only basically one way to make everyone wealthy, and that is AI and robotics.
Bold claim. I have my own opinions about the productivity, but you have anything you want to add first?
Well, sure. And again, there, folks, we dove into it quickly, but he was saying that people have always been talking about getting rid of poverty, but this finally will do the trick. And so I share his optimism on how much of a boon to humanity this is going to be, but I think the way he kind of just casually dismissed this, they've been talking about eliminating poverty for a long time, but show me the results. And it's like, well, yeah, we can. Like, the drop in global poverty is breathtaking thus far, over the last 40 years or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, what would the world have to look like for, for you to say, yeah, we've made great strides in eliminating global poverty without humanoid robots thus far.
Right. But I think you would say, yes, but it wasn't poverty NGOs and government programs that did that. It was improved productivity and capitalism, which is what I'm talking about here. But I had a more basic...
I mean, yes, but he's quite specifically said they haven't done it yet, and it's only going to happen with humanoid robots. And I'm saying, no, if God came down and said, no, you humans are never allowed to invent humanoid robots, you would still see people getting richer. That's all I'm saying, is that he, for some reason, had to shoehorn it into and just say, yeah, everyone else up till now has been a fool. This is the thing that will finally actually make a dent in global poverty. And I was like, what are you talking about? Anyway, go ahead.
The thing that crossed my mind, though, is government welfare programs that seem to have halted the progress towards eliminating poverty when they were implemented, and the fact that we've got this counterfeit money. And it made me think, and I'll ask you, what happens when we have increased productivity that seems like it should make everything dirt cheap, but we also have the Fed counterfeiting even faster and gathering up all that wealth in cronies' pockets, or whatever the Cantillon effects are. Like, I could see if we had a hard money, I'd be real, and no government programs, I'd be real excited about every increase in productivity. But given that we've got this bunch of crooks that reign over us, how is that going to gum up the works and make it so that the average person doesn't see these gains or as much of them?
Okay. So one thing is, let me just make sure I wasn't misleading people. When I was talking about like the gains and the reduction of poverty for humanity, I wasn't talking about the United States. I'm saying, like, if you just look at, you set some objective floor and say, what's the minimum, like, calories per day or whatever you want it to, something that it's not just compared to your neighbors, but like it's an objective thing in terms of what do we mean by a minimum threshold above which you're not in poverty or in abject poverty. You can define whatever you want. And I'm just saying, like, the percentage of the global population above that number, that threshold, has gone way up over time. And a lot of it is, like you say, it's not NGOs. It's like, China moved away from the Great Leap Forward, and China introduced
that'll help
a modicum of private property for peasants and things and stuff like that. So that's largely what the trends I'm referring to are capturing, is like China and India, their people emerging from destitution levels. Whereas, in the U.S., like, there's metrics that, like, the poverty rate was declining before the war on poverty. And then, it once the war on poverty begins, the poverty rate does keep dropping a little bit, but then it kind of levels off. And so, anyway, you could use the data to actually argue that the war on poverty arrested the fall, if you wanted to. It's hard, it's counterfactual. So certainly all that stuff is at play. Yes, you're right, Adam, that just the fact that per capita output, right now, per capita global output is high enough that nobody needs to starve to death. and that's kind of like what, fuels socialism and stuff like that. Geez, there's enough to go around. If those greedy rich people would share, then everything would be fine. So right, the fact that average human productivity is going to go up as these new techniques get deployed doesn't mean everything's going to be great. And you're right. Concurrent with all of these positive trends are also a lot of ominous things, and some of the same people are involved in both things, like the rise of the surveillance state, and yeah, it's amazing that drones can take Amazon packages and deliver them to your door, and that's also what they're going to use to go around, and anybody who's out of line, they're going to shoot a laser through their forehead, and if your social credit score isn't right, so that's coming too. And I'm saying it to be fanciful, but I really do think like my children are going to grow up in a world where that's what's going to be just part of life. That if they wanted to, if you step out of line, it's just well known that some people disappear, and they don't send the police to your door. They don't have to.
Yeah, Elon didn't cover that part.
The only thing that can stop a bad guy with a drone is a good guy with a drone. So
yeah, solved. Okay, well, here's the mic drop moment. Work is optional.
Say, like, in the long term, where will things end up? Long term, I don't know what long term is. Maybe it's 10, 20 years or something like that. For me, that's long term. My prediction is that work will be optional.
Optional.
Optional. So
We'll take that.
yeah. I mean, it'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. If you want to work, in the same way, like you can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables in your backyard, but some people still do it because they like growing vegetables. That will be what work is like, optional. Now, between now and then, there's actually a lot of work to get to that point. Mm-hmm. And I always recommend people read Ian Banks' culture books to get a sense for what a probable positive AI future is like. And interestingly, in those books, money doesn't exist. It's kind of interesting. And my guess is, if you go out long enough, assuming there's a continued improvement in AI and robotics, which seems likely, the money will stop being relevant at some point in the future. Now, there will still be constraints on power, like electricity and mass. The fundamental physics elements will still be constraints. But I think at some point, currency becomes irrelevant.
Jensen, any thoughts?
By the way, the NVIDIA earnings call is later today.
And by the way, since currency is relevant.
I left the joke in there because it's pretty funny. So good news and bad news, Bob. It sounds like a utopia, but you're going to need to find a real, well, I guess not a job, but what's economics when nothing costs nothing? There ain't no money, and
yeah,
intelligent AIs are governing everything.
I was I was working on like basically everyone's going to be just doing their own podcast, and what a horrifying.
We're halfway there, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no sponsor for this episode. There doesn't need to be.
It doesn't need to be.
Okay. It's funny. When I first watched that, my reaction was, I just think he's way early in that. Let's do the work optional thing, and then remind me, Adam. Let's hit the money thing after that. But yeah, the idea like could work be optional in the sense that he means that there within 10 to 20 years. At first, I thought that was crazy early. Like yes, we can talk about that down the road, but I mean, does he mean for all of planet Earth, or does he just mean for certain people? And if there is, presumably it would be in waves, and that like the stockholders in the companies mass producing the robots, and I think you would also see stuff like real estate would go way up. All right, so let me just run through a real quick thing. I did this a few years ago. Like what happens that, yes, with the explosion of AI put into robot bodies, and they can just mass produce those things. Like, let's say, you could buy basically a robot slave that's pretty intelligent for $5,000, let's say. And that would and all you got to do is like charge it at night, and its operating costs are $50 a day or whatever. I'm making up numbers. But, that kind of thing available en masse, that's going to have profound implications. And so then I was at some conference trying to give investment advice, that was the shtick. And so I was, saying, well, what kind of things would still be scarce there? And, because normally you think of like the trade between labor and capital. And so it's like, oh, well, labor is not going to be as valuable, and or at least many types of labor certainly are not going to be as valuable. And so that's a problem. But then you'd also say, oh, so does that mean is capital going to be more valuable? And then it wasn't clear, how that would go either. And then I thought, oh, but clearly land is going to be, so I thought, okay, so people, you want to get into real estate. And then this was a real estate conference, and the people like the organizers like that. So yes, Dr. Murphy said, go get our timeshares. So anyway, so there's that element. So where I'm coming back just, to what Elon was saying is I was thinking the way he's kind of just going like, here it is today. And then 20 years from now, nobody has to work. And I thought that was way too early because it's going to happen in waves, and there's going to be certain people that are just made fantastically wealthy in this timeline, but it's going to take a while to trickle out. And so I'm trying to give some sense of who are the early winners going to be. Obviously, Elon and his shareholders and so on. And the guy in the robes there, I'm sure he's going to go along for the ride. But it's also like anybody who owns real estate. I think, that's going to be very valuable, or just even, copper mines and stuff. Like the machines are going to need raw materials to go, do all their stuff. And so I think you're going to see in the short to medium term, like those, natural resources go way up in value, whereas perhaps other types of labor, like certain people with specialized skills, might see their productivity go through the roof. Like the guy whose job is going to be, instead of doing whatever he does right now, with now 10,000 robots that he's given orders to and follow his lead, he augments his productivity that much. And so, but they still need the human to kind of coordinate everything, to be like the conductor of the orchestra, as it were. And so that person might, be making $1 million an hour in his salary, and, when this thing settles down. So anyway, I see that, whereas manual laborers in Bangladesh, I don't know that 20 years from now, they're just going to be able to say, yeah, I don't have to work anymore. This is awesome. Right. So I think he was a little bit early, but on the other hand, I do think it's not ludicrous. So the first time I heard him say that, I thought, give me a break. And I was getting ready to come on here, Adam, just tell you how nuts that was. But then even as it has digested with me a bit, and now just when you played it here again for the folks watching now, it doesn't strike me as that absurd, given how fast, he thinks it's going to happen. Let me just, last thing I'll say on this point, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Partly what made me hesitate was we don't even have any of these prototypes out working in the factory. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
They haven't even been brought to market yet. And so the
Zero.
idea that
Yeah.
they would need to make billions of them to make humans not have to work. And you're saying all that's going to happen in the next 20 years. Like that's kind of where I'm coming from, that there's just not enough time for that, even once the technology's there. And yes, once we get a model where we say we just mass produce this and then that's it. Okay. But you would have to make literally billions of them in order to give the current standard of living with the humans not having to work. Like that's one way to think about it. Like, just to maintain our current standard of living where nobody has to work, you need the robots to do everything we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some intellectual tasks that you could say, oh, well, one powerful AI system could take the place of 1,000 IT workers or whatever. Okay, but not 1,000, guys who physical labor. People go build houses and stuff like that, roofers and things. Like it's if that's what he's talking about, those types of things, it's going to take, like I say, at least hundreds of millions, if not billions. And probably there'll actually be some combination. Like they'll just realize, oh, it'll be easier to build some kind of machine that the robots just like plug into and control better than a human could or something. You know what I mean? And so, you wouldn't build a house by just creating robots that do what humans do right now. That's probably a better way to build a house. But anyway.
Yeah. I thought what he was saying was a little bit nuts. And then when he pointed to science fiction books that I have read as an example of what he's talking about, I really thought he was making a leap. Like, first of all, I'm with him on the things he's building now and AI in general and robots making us more productive. I'm totally on board with that. But he's envisioning a world where the robots and the AIs make everything. And I don't see why. What are the humans going to exchange with whoever owns these things in order to get our standard of living? He's envisioning money evaporating away. Okay, well, so we're not exchanging. You see, in these culture books.
Yeah, I was glad you read, because I had seen some people saying that no, that's not at all what's going on in those books. What the heck is he talking? But I haven't read them.
Yeah, I mean, the path from here to there is completely. What it is it's real hard to make one, but you can make an amazingly powerful mind with a capital M, they call them. And they attach them to entire planets or orbital rings or very powerful ships, military and otherwise, so that the AI is running this big physical thing, whatever it is. And they have personalities and interests, and thankfully, because this entire civilization and the plot of each book relies on it, these minds are just kind of fascinated with humans. And so they provide for them and are constantly on call in their ear or whatever, asking them for advice and directions. And how can I make my life more beautiful and bountiful? Here, I'll help you. But, who says it's going to go that way? I mean, I don't necessarily think we're going to get to AGI ever, where these things have personalities and wants and desires. But if they were, why would we think that what the AI would want to do is take care of us and make sure our every need, as constrained by second law of thermodynamics and electricity and mass and all that, why would they think they would do all that to pleasure us? It doesn't make any sense. And even if we did get there, yay, what's the link between where we are now and that? I just don't see it. So, like, on one hand, again, I'm super impressed with this guy, and I think he and everybody working in this field is going to make the human. Oh, and there's one other thing. You have to not have read Mises or Hayek to be okay with the idea of these minds in the culture books making everything, because they have a knowledge problem or something, I think. Or maybe they're just so incredibly powerful and productive that they can make all sorts of crazy mistakes and it's not a problem in production. But there's no markets for anything. It's this one entity that owns the whole orbital ring or planet or ship or whatever. So I see an organizational problem. Like, maybe they're so smart they've solved Hayek's objection, but not Mises's. And then again, yeah, I totally get us being more productive, and unless the government inflates that power away or steals it or something, we all get richer. But I don't see us getting to the point where work is optional and there's no money. I just can't picture. I can't picture it. Help me picture it, Bob.
Okay, yeah. So you're right. The two things that kind of bleed together now, like the distinction between, is he right that work will be optional, and is he also right that we'll need money, and they do kind of go together. So let me give a limited defense. The way I picture things, like when I'm really trying to be super utopian, and I just say, no, don't you understand? Like, because I think even hardcore Rothbardians sometimes just underestimate the wastefulness and destruction wrought by the state. And that if we just had everyone on planet Earth just obeyed property rights, like there could be random crazy guys, but there were no institutional violations of property rights, I don't think we realize just how fantastically wealthier we would be.
Amen.
And so in that, just like now, you could say, like, you could imagine talking to somebody who's in a place where they can't get clean water, like it's got cholera or whatever. And then you say, oh, where I come from, you can go to a restaurant and the water is just free. And they're like, oh, is it disgusting? And no, it tastes fine. It's great, and so they might think like, oh, come on, this is some utopia. Oh, the water's free. And you say, well, it costs, but that's such a small thing that they give it away kind of as a loss leader. Like they want you, know what I mean? They don't even bother charging you. They'd be stupid. Okay, so that's the sense in which if we were 10,000 times wealthier, you could imagine that someone from that world, coming to ours and say, oh yeah, I mean, if you wanted to just, have a 2-bedroom apartment and, just have electricity and running water and have a laundry down the hall that robots took care of, and, you just played video games all day and went around, you could do that. And they was like, well, how much would that cost? He's like, I mean, the building would let you do that just kind of to get you interested in it, to see if your friends wanted to rent or so. It'd be free. And you'd be, and I'm just saying, because in their world, like, because you could go, rent a timeshare on Jupiter or something. Like, why would you want to just live in a 2-bedroom? Like, why would you do that? Right. It'd be so boring. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't charge you if that's all you wanted to do. So anyway, I could see it being like that. But notice, again, even there, that's because it's just this tiny little pinprick in the overall real economy. And there, yes, like you say, for all these various reasons, you would need money just to help coordinate everything. Like the various entities that were in competition, and not like cutthroat, but just like, yeah, you've got 19,000 of these AI systems running all the major corporations or whatever. They could have disputes over who's going to use that asteroid to do such and such.
Yeah.
Right. And so they need some mechanism of resolving that. And, and Elon can say, well, no, at that point, it would just be like, they would have blockchain votes and things, and they would do this, and this many people would get this many gigawatts base. It would be money. Like that's what it would be, And so anyway, so there's that element. And then just to circle back, the thing you were saying too, you're right that there is this disconnect of, oh yeah, all these companies will get bigger and bigger, and then costs will come down. I was so glad that the guy in the robe didn't say, you're going to make the batteries 900 times cheaper. I was like, thank you. At least he didn't say that, because I hate when people phrase things that way.
Right.
So you're right. There is this weird thing, like, what's the point of, making output go up 200 times with all the robots coming in the factories and getting rid of all the human workers and everything? And then who are you going to sell the product to? Right. There is an element, like, if nobody else is working. And so that is kind of a logical disconnect in why, it can't be a Nash equilibrium if the AI takes all our jobs, like, and it's still at least owned by humans. Now, you're right. You could do the runaway evil AI kind of, not even evil, but just they don't care about us and we're just like grasshoppers to them. That could make sense. That's internally consistent, that story. But the idea that, yeah, there's all these multi-quadrillionaires who cornered the market, and then the workers don't have, it's like, well, yeah, who are they selling it to? What's the point? So that's why I do think that yes, I'm sure you've seen my stuff on this, Adam. We've probably talked about these crossovers, that using standard, analogies with like the free trade literature and things about comparative advantage. And yep, even if all the workers in your country are better at making everything, you still raise the standard of living of your workers if you specialize in what you're really good at and trade with, people somewhere else, even if their workers are inferior in an absolute sense in making the various products. And so likewise, yeah, even if it is true that at some point the robots are all, better than the average, even the top 1% of humans and everything they could do, brain surgery, you name it, they're better at everything. Okay, that doesn't mean we can't get work. Just like right now, there are humans who are way better at just about everything. It doesn't mean the normal people can't get work, right? You're not hurt because there's great brain surgeons out there. You're made wealthier. That doesn't put you out of work. And so, yeah, if there's billions of these robots that come on the scene and they can do all sorts of stuff, that doesn't put us out of work. That just means we end up specializing in something else, and that helps them and it helps us. And that's why we, benefit from trade. So there you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to underscore one thing you said, just to highlight it. It's so important. The analogy to free water at the restaurant, just because we're that, wealthy now. And yeah, if you keep that insight and multiply it, how much How much stuff could there be for free, quote unquote, if we become 1,000 times more productive? It boggles the mind. Yeah, I don't think
You know what I mean? Like even, I'm sorry, but just like, sometimes if you're on the road or something and you really got to go to the bathroom and you stop and you go into a gas station, you go, and like, I always buy something because I feel funny.
Right.
Especially depending on what type of situation we had to deal with. As the number increases, I might buy something that was more valuable. Catch my drift.
Indeed.
And so, but even there, like technically, it's like, oh, there's this whole string of buildings built across the country just in case I have to go potty, and they don't even charge me. It's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, but I don't see the socialist mind, not the socialist, but I don't see the mind of being able to coordinate all that production. And I don't see money disappearing, but like one of my favorite libertarian-ish science fiction novels, trilogy really, the money isn't money. It's microseconds of computing power, because that's the most important thing in their society.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously gold has its disadvantages. Fiat is trash and Bitcoin is just sort of arbitrary, but I could see the thing that is valued being like the most important commodity in a particular society, like energy or something like that. But I just can't imagine money ever disappearing unless, again, we're being completely taken care of by these babysitting, overlording minds.
But can I just stop you there? But even there, you're right. So it's, I think sometimes economists can be territorial and, like, get out of here. What do you know? This is stupid. So I bristle when I hear engineering types talk about like, in the future, like the real, money is really just energy when you think about it. And like, no, it isn't. It's a medium of exchange, but you're right. Like maybe we're kind of both right that yes, in that world, perhaps just like in prison, like the cigarettes become the money just because in that particular setting, lots of people like it. And it has all the advantages, and that's even non-smokers.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so,
exactly.
Yes, I could imagine a future world where because the thing that just everybody wants, or even if they don't need it, they just know I'm not going to have any problem transferring this to somebody else. I could see compute, people use that as a noun, being the commodity, but then even there, it would be a commodity money. You see what I'm saying? Like just like the cigarettes there, in the prison, the cigarettes really were the money. It's not that money disappeared and instead they use cigarettes. No, it's that cigarettes are the money. Like that's what economists mean. And you quote things in terms of cigarette prices and whatnot.
Could it ever be the case? Imagine we're in this culture novel world and almost everything, can be produced super cheaply. What if the constraint, the scarce thing, was like blueberries for some reason? For whatever reason, they couldn't make so much that everybody is satiated. Would then blueberries be? Would they trade for other goods, or did I just set up the scenario that everything else is completely abundant? I don't know. I was trying to make a real world.
And I was thinking of it like it'd be like the Star Trek, and they say, "Give me a plate, bowl of blueberries." And the guy tastes it. He's like, "This is terrible. They don't taste right, And it's not. It's got
the Romulan whiskey, the real Romulan whiskey. Yeah.
And what's funny is like it'd be hard. You could only divide them so much, and so like it'd have to be claims on blueberries that you trade.
You've created fractional reserve blueberries.
I didn't say it was fractional. It's just claims on it. You could go verify it. It's in cold storage, right?
There you go. No one would ever cheat on that. You've never read these books he's talking about, right?
No. I didn't
They're by Ian M. Banks, and they're really good. I think there's 9 of them. I've read maybe half of them.
I guess when you didn't have a real job, that's kind of
you stop it now. You stop it right now.
Yeah, actually, you know what it's like to not have to work. So what's it like?
I've been living in the future my whole life. But the whole thing about these AIs and what Elon's talking about, the superabundance, that's not really what it's about. There's a bunch of intrigue and adventures and wars, deep, rich histories of galactic wars, and it's all very interesting. Speaking of war, there's a guy I know that you know him too, that knows a whole lot about wars on this here planet, in this here reality. And I don't know if you've heard, but I think he's putting something on offer that can educate people about the history of wars on this planet and how we can avoid them and the lies that we were told to go along with them and all sorts of cool stuff like that. You know anything about this, Bob?
I do. And I remembered back when I said about the sponsor for this episode. Oh, wait, we do have to talk about the sponsor that we were supposed to already after the first clip. Yes, his name is Scott Horton, and he has an academy. And it's not free. Money still is valuable in this world. But if you do sign up with our promo code, you get, I think it's 10% off the yearly subscription and 20% off the lifetime. So you want to check that out. It's scotthortonacademy.com/crossover. And yes, it is, joking aside, it's exactly what you would hope it would be. That if you're like Scott and you just think, geez, we need to multiply him. We just need to have a bunch of more Scott Hortons running around arguing with people on the internet and doing appearances and so forth. Well, be the change you want to see in the world. Or you can get it as a gift for somebody for Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate this time of year.
Even better, yes. Get 10. They're small. Joking aside, I strongly recommend you buy the lifetime because you are going to want this over and over and forever. And Scott is working like a dog to add courses as he goes along here. So, yeah, get that thing, put it in your pocket, and you will just have a wealth of knowledge at your audio fingertips. Is that a thing? scotthortonacademy.com/crossover. Should we dive back into these clips? Because there was more than one billionaire guy on the stage next to that Saudi guy. It was Jensen Hwang.
You're a poet. You have a way with words here, Adam.
I believe that's the official designation. It's not my culture. Jensen Hwang, CEO of NVIDIA, was asked some interesting questions as well and had some interesting things to say.
I would say there's different horizons you could look at. Everybody's jobs will be different. I think that's for sure. How the students learn will be different. How people do their work will be different, obviously, because a lot of the things that we do mundanely or arduously or very difficultly are going to be done very simply. And so we're going to be more productive from that sense. One of the things that I will say is that for most people or a company, if your life becomes more productive, and if the things that you're doing with great difficulty become simpler, it is very likely, because you have so many ideas, you'll have more time to go pursue things. It is my guess that Elon will be busier as a result of AI. I'm going to be busier as a result of AI. And the reason for that is because we have so many ideas we want to pursue, so many things that we still have in our backlog inside our company that we can go pursue. If we were more productive, we can get to those things faster. And so in the near term, I would say that there's every evidence that we will be more productive and yet still be busier because we have so many ideas. One thing that I will say, give you some evidence, is that, and I was just telling Elon about this earlier, radiology, for example, has largely been converted to AI-driven radiology, and there's some really great companies doing that. And the surprising thing is the prediction that all radiologists would be the first jobs to go was exactly the opposite. The trend shows that there are more radiologists being hired now as a result of AI. And the reason for that, if you take a step back, it's because the goal of a radiologist is not to study the images. The goal of a radiologist is to diagnose a disease. Now the studying of the images became so productive, they could study more images, study more modalities, spend more time with the patients. And as a result, they're actually accepting more patients. We're doing more radiology all around the world. We're doing a better job with diagnosing disease. And so that's kind of the near-term outcome of AI and productivity. And we'll see what happens long-term. You know, when currency doesn't matter anymore, just, let me know right before.
You'll see it coming.
So you got two billionaire tech giants on the stage, and
Yeah,
you've got
I just Googled while you're like, that guy's worth like 152 billion.
Mhm.
So you can imagine you're worth it, and you're sitting next to Elon. Like, geez, this guy's worth 4 times as much as me. Man, I feel like a schlub. And you're worth
What a
100
loser.
anyway. Yeah.
So yeah, well, like when you're evaluating these claims, just remember you've got these two brilliant tech billionaires on stage sitting right next to an emissary from an oil-rich, tech-forward, literal kingdom on Earth, and they can't figure out how to get that annoying whine out of the audio system in that room. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Do you have the clip where the one guy's mic, he had to get it replaced?
No, I didn't. I didn't take a
Oh.
clip from that part, but it suited my point. I
But
wish
what was
I had.
funny, so folks, I realize this is completely irrelevant. Just it was funny. So at some point, needed maybe in the clip we just saw that happened after. I don't remember, but the host, the interviewer there, he's talking, and every time he went to talk, it was like real scratchy, and he kept stopping, and he didn't know what to do. And then Elon actually said, and he was, I think Elon was right that because they were wearing those headpieces like a, Britney Spears thing or whatever, or Madonna back in the day. I've been dating myself. And I think what was happening is it was just like rubbing against his beard.
Something
And
like
he
that,
just
yeah.
didn't know. And so two things is, one is Elon instantly diagnosed like what the issue was. And I kind of just reinforced like, yeah, Elon actually is pretty sharp and he's not panicked or something. He's just like, here, that's how you fix the problem. So what's up? And that guy didn't know what to do. But then also how quickly someone ran out and gave him a working mic at a libertarian event. No, that was just, we would have been up there fumbling around for 10 minutes. Like so anyway, I could just kind of see like, yeah, these guys are connected. And then even when the one guy doesn't know what the heck he's doing, there are people around him that just fix the problem instantly. So anyway.
So you're saying intelligence and money are helpful things in this world?
I am saying that.
Okay. All right.
Of which libertarians have neither.
Neither we have autism. Can't take that away from us. So I liked what Jensen said there, just emphasizing, no, it's not taking your job. It's making you incredibly more productive with the job you have.
And you know what's funny is long ago I had did I have an exchange? I don't know if exchange is the right word because that implies that he was answering me. I don't know if, I can't remember if he did or not. Maybe he emailed me or something, but I was publicly taking on Paul Craig Roberts when he was like challenging the case for free trade. This was like in the mid 2000s. Like he even co-authored an op-ed with Chuck Schumer or something, which I was just like, what the heck is going on? And, they started like, we disagree politically on many things, but what we do agree on is da-da-da-da. And so anyway, but I think that was one of his things was like saying, it wasn't from AI, of course, back then. It was, we can't allow offshoring and whatever because that's the MRI readers. Yeah. So what's going to happen is people are just going to go in and get their MRI, and then some dude in India is going to give the result, and that's going to throw all of our people out of work. And like that was supposed to be some problem, and I did so. Paul Craig Roberts was okay with free trade in goods. He just thought that when labor and capital are mobile, it goes out the window. And so I did a reductio ad absurdum, say, well, what if a firm in India got the doctors to like come up with all the different diagnoses and they put it into a box and send it across the ocean? You just buy it for $2,000, and then you put the image in, and then it gives you the diagnosis. There, it's a product, right? It's a case for free trade. Yeah, that's going to throw some workers, people out of business, workers out of work, but the cost, the savings, the consumers, the patients, So anyway, all that is to say, it was just funny because yes, for a while, people are trying to come up with, what are the obvious first jobs that are going to be in the chopping block? And yeah, radiologist, what you would have thought that would go. But I like the way that guy was saying that no, actually it's the other way around. Something I've said to people, this was a couple years ago where I was like visiting my brother and we were just hanging out with like childhood friends. And this is right when like GPT 3.5 or something had just come on the scene. And people were really starting to play around with it on Twitter and whatnot. And people were talking, and some people were giving, were sitting around a fire or something outside. So people were giving the standard, kind of worries and laments. And I was like, you guys seen the Avengers movies? You like see Iron Man, like Tony Stark, how he works in his house and he's using the thing and he's, do you see how much he can do because he's aided by that thing? I said, that's what everyone's going to have in their house eventually. Like no, that's not going to be a curse. That's going to be amazing. So anyway,
I think that's much closer to the way things will be. Again, absent government screwing it all up. Right at the end of this call again, or presentation. I don't have a clip for it, but somebody asked Jensen if we're in an AI bubble. It was kind of funny because it was like an hour before he has to go to his NVIDIA earnings call or something. But his response was pretty convincing.
Yeah, I thought so too.
He just rolled out at least 3 completely new areas of need for AI that I'm not even going to be able to understand, like the way the phones work. And anyway, he just made it seem like, no, you don't understand. The demand for what these things can be is a trillion times more than you're even thinking about. You're thinking about it in the wrong dimension, let alone an order of magnitude or two. Yeah, we still are going to have a heck of a time trying to, supply all that's going to be desired by the people who want to use this once it becomes a thing that everybody's just accustomed to.
Yeah, that was my thought even before I saw him give his answer. And then like my general thought when people are talking about, is there a bubble right now? Did we overbuild and that kind of stuff? And I don't think so. I mean, I could imagine somebody 3 years from now saying we should have delayed the construction of, these particular processors by 18 months or, I could imagine a little, but like in terms of 10 years from now, looking backward, are people going to say, man, what the heck are we going to do with all this computational power? We don't need it. Like that's just not going to happen.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I had a thought. I don't have that often. I'm usually pretty pessimistic about this AI stuff, at least over the overclaims. And I've been saying for a while to, just me and my buddies, yeah, of course it's a bubble. It has to be a bubble. Look at all the money they've thrown in this. Are they really ever going to get that much out? But watching this half-hour presentation made me think, oh, maybe I don't understand just how incredibly useful and productive these things can be. Even, disregard the AGI claims. Just forget that. Just what the self-driving and the regular old AI is.
Right. The thing I've been saying for like 2 years at this point is, even if they just halted right now, what I have seen with my own eyes, the GPT, and now again the one we use in Infineon's Claude, what it can do, they don't need to improve it anymore. It's just people, like even I don't use it enough. And it really resonated with me when that Jensen guy was talking about, we're going to be busier. I'm sure Elon is. I know I'm going to be, like all these things, ideas and projects in my own company.
Yeah.
I was talking with email to someone the other day about a thing, and I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted to do back when I was at Texas Tech. My one regret there is I really wanted the minimum wage literature and how they overturned the old, like this, just so people know, just going on a real quick tangent here, Adam. There's people who are familiar with this stuff may know that there's been this revolution in the minimum wage literature that came in like in the early 90s where, oh yeah, people used to think, it used to be consensus that raising the minimum wage was a very ineffective way to try to help teen employment because, you throw them out of work and but now with the new analyses and whatever the sophisticated models, we can see that actually that effect is minimal. And what's funny is if you just do a standard regression, it still shows that, yeah, like states that raise their minimum wages have higher teen unemployment and stuff like that, or lower teen employment, if you want to do it that way. And then, but they like correct the data somehow and they do some blah, 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 and then makes that effect go away. And I just always thought that was fishy, but to do it right, like what I wanted to do was build a model where the minimum wage is bad and then show and just generate, data in the world of the model, like simulated data. And then show if the economists in that world use the corrections that these guys are talking about, the effect would disappear. And that's what I wanted to do when I was at Texas Tech and I had grad students working. And we just could never, for one thing, we could never reproduce. We had ostensibly the original data sets and the techniques that these guys with the cutting edge models that Krugman talked about. And I could never reproduce their results. Like we just got stuck at that step. And so I realized when I was explaining it to Elon, I was like, oh, I could do that like over Christmas break with Claude. Let me try. There's lots of things in my life that I was like, yeah, if I could clone myself, I could work on that, but I don't have time. And now I'm just realizing I could do all this stuff now. So anyway, my point is I don't need to wait for an improvement in Claude. I can do that right now, what I've seen it's capable of doing when I'm working with it. And yeah, it makes mistakes. And so I just watch for that and say, hey, that doesn't work. And it says, oh, sorry. Just like you say, yeah, you can never do anything with humans because they make mistakes, and sometimes they even lie about it and they bluff. So that's why you can never collaborate with humans.
Speaking of lying, you think those guys were fudging the data or not telling you what their methods were?
Oh no, it was. I think we just the grad students and I didn't get enough into, like, I don't think we understood. Like, I didn't have enough time to just put everything to the side and throw myself into it. And I was hoping they were going to be able to figure it out, and they didn't.
I'm of two minds with AI. On the one hand, I see the value of you being able to do the thing you just said and all the incredible improvements that Elon and Jensen and others have in mind. That's one side of my horns of my dilemma. And on the other side is I really think they just could have stopped as soon as the thing could write a filthy limerick. I mean, what else do we really need besides that? The last thing they talked about, or the last thing
sorry, can I say one thing?
Mm-hmm.
What I could see in terms of what I said a minute ago, I can't see 10 years from now people looking backwards and saying we overinvested in the capacity. The one asterisk for there is that they can't get reliable electricity. So there I could see, like, if they were just assuming that, oh yeah, we can get more electricity, and because that's so political too. And are we having a clip about the stuff, or is that we don't have the clip about that? Okay, so Elon does address that, but I should say that's the sense in which, yes, they could say if we had reliable, affordable electricity, this would have been a great investment, but we don't. So now I wish we hadn't spent this many billions building this thing out because now we can't power it.
Yeah, that ties right into the last subject. I didn't take a clip because it just meandered and would have been too long, but Elon spent quite a lot of time talking about the fact that it's just going to be essential that we put these AI data centers, or whatever they're calling them, in space, because solar power is massive. We're hardly using any of it, and the improvement in how much electricity you can generate just having solar panels in space is ginormous. And in addition to that, being able to just radiate into space rather than having to spend all this time and energy in the cooling of the thing. So yeah, if you get a chance, we'll put a link to the whole. It's only a half hour, but listening to Elon talk about just the obvious way this thing has to go for our civilization to advance with all these tools and having all this energy and all this productivity. We're going into space for sure, even more than just satellites, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, now it's probably the time for me to bring it up. So I earlier alluded to me trolling Elon a bit. So recently, like I think it was yesterday as we're recording this, he tweeted out something like, I don't know why these fools are dealing with puny little fusion reactors here on Earth when, we've got this free fusion reactor at the center of our solar system that's going to produce, blah, blah, blah % of all the energy produced in the entire solar system over the next whatever. This is crazy. And so I didn't know the context of what he was talking about. And so I just said, why are we settling for the puny free fusion reactor here when there's free fusion reactors that give 100 times the output? And so half the people misunderstood me, and then the other half were saying, no, he means other stars. And the answer, Elon wants to use our star, is because it's closer.
Transportation.
And, and so it was like, right, which is why we use fusion reactors on Earth and don't try to get everything from the sun. But anyway, in the context of, when he was talking about that
fission,
panel.
Right? I mean,
what's
we can't fission, right? I mean, we can't make fusion ones yet. Isn't that the case?
Well, you can't do cold fusion, that's for sure. I mean, you got a hydrogen bomb.
Yeah, but like for energy.
Yeah. So anyway, he's saying, in this it became clear that he wasn't talking about why does LA get powered from terrestrial based energy instead of just having all solar panels, which to me was like, yeah, I can explain that to you. Like, how do you not know this? But where he was going is the computational and electrical needs to power the AI. He was, running through some quick calculations and saying, even in the near term, like 3/5 of all the electricity right now produced on planet Earth would get consumed by these data centers. And that he said, that's not going to work. And so he was saying, that's why we need to, like you're saying, Adam, do it up in space. And there's he said, that's always sunny. And then the other guy brought up, like the cooling is easier and so on, this radiated out and that sort of thing. I do think he too quickly just ignored not too quickly ignored, but he ignored the fact that right now we only are on the land on Earth, right? So I think this idea that, oh yeah, we've hit the limits, we can't produce more electricity here on Earth. Like, well, no, they could have floating stuff. Like, there's lots on Earth that hasn't been tapped yet. But I do now understand more why he thought, yeah, why don't we use the sun? Because he's picturing, like, put a Dyson sphere up or something in the long term, and really harnessing the sun. Because he said we use was it 2 billionth? Do you remember?
Some incredibly tiny number. Yeah.
His point was just like, if you picture, folks, like the energy the sun's giving out, like this sphere that just expands, and then the Earth is like 8 light minutes away, and so by the time that expanding sphere passes Earth, we only get the tiniest little speck of that.
Yeah,
and so
minus
that was my point.
And clouds
right. That was my point. So if you're wondering how come we don't just get everything from the sun, that's why Elon. But that's what he means is right. I'm saying, so why don't we put the electrical gatherers up in space? So there you go.
Yeah, it's dumb to argue about this stuff, because what's the future is a matter of definition. Like right now, I think we need fossil fuels and lots of it. In the immediate future, I think we need more nuclear reactors, as many as we can build. And in the long-term future, I do think Elon's right. It's going to be solar, but we're not there yet. And then on the Bob Murphy time scale, we'll be getting our energy from Alpha Centauri. Obviously, it's bigger. Is it bigger? I don't know.
What's neat, the other thing I'll say too is, like, at NVIDIA, we have a guy that used to work at NASA, and I think partly what he did was there was I think it was the Martian rover, and then it was something like some deep space thing that they like an observational satellite that they send out, and it just goes out and beams information back to Earth for as long as it can, and then it turns into V'ger and comes back, and Captain Kirk has to go fight it. But,
yeah, it does.
But they had a little nuclear reactor on that thing, like, and that was kind of what I think he was involved with or something. So because part of it is when you get too far, you get farther away from the sun, it gets really dim, and so you got to have an onboard thing. So anyway, I'm just Elon. He keeps coming back to, like, the sun's just got so much energy. I was like, well, right, but it's hard to harness, and the further away you get from it, the solar panel, you'd have to have humongous solar panels. So anyway,
calm down, Murphy. We're just trying to move electric cars here, okay? Batteries.
Yeah.
Any other insights? I thought this was a fascinating talk. Again, we'll link to it. I thought the PR pitch aspect of it from the Saudi guy was pretty funny too. But just what these two genius guys were saying, it makes one optimistic.
Well, I thought it was interesting too. Like a while ago, I just kind of had this epiphany that, you're the monarch, the family in charge of Saudi Arabia, and you're sitting on all this oil, and I guess it's in the 70s when this was, and you realize we've got all this wealth, but we don't have a big army or something. So what do we do? And we got to basically hire the biggest army on the planet to guard us and to be friends with us. And then now, as it's moving along, I think they're realizing, the U.S. fleet, those things are going to get taken out in one strike from a bunch of tiny little nanobots that are just going to go and just swarm. They're not even going to, they're like, what is that? Just some insects? What the heck is that? And then it's going to eat through the hull, and all the carriers are going to just sink, and it'll be some 18 guys somewhere, So I think they're realizing that, we need to get ahead of this, and that's why we're going to go full bore into all this stuff, because I think they realize that the two guys sitting on that platform are going to be more powerful than heads of state, I think, in 10 to 20 years.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah. Who do you bribe as a rich but weak monarch? It's pretty smart, really. All right. Anything else you want to tell the good folks?
Get into real estate.
Yeah. Land. All right. Well, this is cool, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think these crossover episodes are something, you should go check out my Haman Nature YouTube channel. It's even more, and also less. And go check out the Bob Murphy Show. If for some reason you don't know about it, you're crazy. Say goodbye to the nice people, Dr. Murphy.
So long, folks. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye-bye.